Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will talk about which is better to live in Taiwan or Japan. It's my personal opinion and this video is not intended to offend anyone. I lived in Tokyo when I was in Japan and I've been living in Taipei for 4 months now. So this comparison is based on the difference between Tokyo and Taipei. Alright, let's start the video. The first point is the cost of living. I think the cost of living is one of the most important factors to compare two countries. Housing expense is the most significant part, and I would say it will cost you more to rent an apartment in Japan. For example, when I lived in Tokyo by myself, I paid about 20,000 Taiwanese dollars, which is $800 every month. My room was just 20 square meters big, and it was just a single room. I guess it will be cheaper to rent an apartment of the same size in Taiwan. Also, I didn't know this before coming to Taiwan, but there is no residential tax in Taiwan. In Japan, we have residential tax, so you need to pay 10% of your income to live in Japan. But in Taiwan, you don't need to pay tax to live. Of course, there is an income tax, but overall the tax tends to be lower in Taiwan than in Japan. Also, the cost of the food is very important because we eat 3 times every day, so it accumulates. As you might have imagined this already, but the same with housing expenses, it costs more to eat in Japan. If you have dinner at a restaurant, it will cost you about $30 or more, which is 750 Taiwanese dollars. In Taiwan, I feel the volume of one dish tends to be larger and you can eat at more reasonable price. The second point is food. I started to live in Taiwan and can you guess what Japanese food I miss the most? It's miso soup and ramen because they are both very salty. But interestingly, I didn't notice that both miso soup and ramen includes a lot of salt when I stayed in Japan. For Taiwanese food, it's less salty, but some foods such as dumplings might be a little oily for some people. But actually, Taiwanese food are very delicious, so it's up to your preference. Also, what I really like about Taiwanese food is there are a variety of fruits. For example, the only popular Taiwanese fruits I knew before coming to Taiwan was mango. But in Taiwan, there are not only mango, but also fruits like pineapples, lychee, dragon fruits, passion fruits, and so on. Since they are mostly made in Taiwan, it is very cheap. In Japan, there are fewer fruits and it will cost much more since Japan imports a lot of fruits from other countries. Taiwan also has meals from Hong Kong and you can enjoy them as well. But when it comes to food, we don't need to think it's one of the two options because both countries have access to the other country's food. Also, I need to talk about the Taiwanese night market as well. You can eat the meal for 50 to 80 Taiwanese dollars, which is 2 to 3 US dollars. When I went to the night market in Taipei called Ningxia Yeshi, it was exciting to see the night market is a part of Taiwanese people's lives. I guess the night market helps Taiwanese people save time cooking at home since the food is reasonable at the night market and it opens by late time. In Japan, if you eat outside always, it will cost you a lot and it's not sustainable. The third point is the weather. People usually think Taiwan is much hotter than Japan because it is located in much more south. I also think Taiwan is a little hotter than Japan, but the temperature in summer is not that different. Recently, Tokyo is very hot as well, like 35 degrees in summer. But I feel the sunlight is stronger in Taiwan, especially if you go more south. It is because Taiwan is much closer to the equator. Taiwan's climate is subtropical and the very southern part of the island is tropical. So it rains a lot in Taiwan, especially from May to September, while it rains less in Japan. In Taiwan, it does not rain all day, but instead, it rains hard in a short time. After the rain, it tends to be less hot. For winter, Tokyo is very cold like 5 degrees. On the contrary, Taipei is warmer like 15 degrees. So if you don't really like the cold weather, it is a good idea to live in Taiwan. The first point is a health issue. I didn't know this before coming to Taiwan, but some Taiwanese people have a headache constantly. As I mentioned earlier, Taiwan is mostly a subtropical country, so air pressure changes a lot due to the sudden rain or typhoon. And then I started to have a headache sometimes, like once or twice a month. The good thing is that many Taiwanese people use the medicine for that and it can quickly cure the symptom. Also, another thing I want to mention is pollen allergy. I think many Japanese people can relate to this very well, but pollen allergy is a big issue Japanese people suffer from in the spring. I also have a pollen allergy and I need to take medicine in spring. But in Taiwan, there is no pollen allergy. I can observe that there is not a perfect country, but you might be able to find a better place depending on your health condition. The fifth point is public transportation. I have another video talking about this, but both countries have excellent transportation. But I feel Japan is more based on trains. On the other hand, it is a mixture of trains, buses, and rental bikes in Taiwan. Even a taxi is reasonable. I would say both countries are very convenient, but the price is much more reasonable in Taiwan. Also, after coming to Taiwan, I was a little surprised to know the bus ride is bumpy. But now I got used to it. The sixth point is safety. Well, both countries are pretty safe. In both countries, you will see women walking alone on a street at night. However, the situation is a little different between the two countries when it comes to traffic safety. After coming to Taiwan, one surprising thing is that there are many motorcycles and they sometimes come very close to pedestrians. So if you're used to Japanese traffic, you might feel a little bit unsafe in Taiwan. But I think if you're careful, you do not have issues living in Taiwan. So I think you need to observe the country's situation and adapt your activity to the environment. The seventh point is leisure. When it comes to leisure, you might think Japan should have much more because it's a bigger country and has bigger cities like Tokyo and Osaka. Well, I agree that Japan has more leisure options, but I think you can enjoy leisure in Japan if you can afford to. There are many amusement parks like Disneyland and Universal Studio, but it will cost you a lot many times. On the contrary, there might be less entertainment in Taiwan, but I would say you can have a good time enjoying many outdoor activities, such as hiking and cycling. Also, there are historical places to visit, such as the National Palace Museum. I grew up in Tokyo and I didn't have much experience enjoying nature. Tokyo is very much westernized and barely saw the traditional buildings, so I prefer Taipei to Tokyo. But it's up to your preference and also your life stage. The eighth point is a public display of affection. This topic is not talked about often when comparing the two countries, but let me speak on this. I see many Taiwanese couples are very close to each other in public. For example, when I go running in the park, I see many married couples running together. Also, when I'm on the street, I see more people are holding hands together. On the other hand, some people feel it can be embarrassing in Japan and couples are not so close in public. It is a cultural difference and also the opinion might change depending on generations. From my point of view, you can have a better time to spend with your partner, caring less about how others judge you in Taiwan. The ninth point is COVID-19. I released another video comparing the government's COVID-19 policy between Taiwan and Japan, so you can check it out if you have not watched it yet. This one seems like a trendy topic, but I think it is a bit different. COVID-19 cases in Taiwan are less than 10 a day now, but COVID-19 cases in Japan are about 20,000 a day. So one big reason Japan has not stopped COVID-19 well is that epidemic control has stayed very long and does not function very well anymore to prevent people from going out. I think there is always a possibility something serious like a pandemic happens in the future, but in any case, both the government and the people need to take action to achieve the goal. So I hope Japan will refer to other countries and reflect learnings into its policy. I compared Taiwan and Japan from 9 points. What do you think about it? When I was in Japan, I didn't know these cultural differences, but now I understand Taiwan much more deeply by living here in Taiwan. Therefore, I want to emphasize that if you visit new places or countries, you can probably broaden your perspective by comparing the countries. Thank you so much for watching, and if you liked the video, make sure to hit the like button. Also, to make a better video, I would love to hear the answer to this question in the comments. Why do you watch the videos on my YouTube channel? I'm looking forward to reading your comments. Alright, I hope you have a great day and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.